Hi there. Do you know that just in that, before I could finish the word hi, people looking at this had formed an impression of us. Oh yeah. It happens in way less than a second. It's milliseconds. And so that's the lizard brain threat assessment. Okay,
it's fast.
We hear a lot about first impressions, how important first impressions are, right? You know, if you make a good first impression, you only have one chance to make a first impression.
There you go.
So we're aware of first impressions, but at the same time, there's a first impression of the first impression, and that's hardwired into us from our survival mechanisms. Okay, and it's our lizard brain. It's happening at a preconscious or semi-conscious level, right? So the very first thing,
my lizard brain's pretty.
We've heard of fight or flight, right? We've got a fight or flight system, so we've got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems.
Right.
And fight or flight, the simple way of separating those is fight or flight and feed and breed. Okay.
Well, I like
so the very first thing when we see something or see something animated, I'll call it an animal or a person, is we do this lizard brain threat assessment.
Okay.
Where it's, do I need to engage my fight or flight system?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Do I need to wake it up?
Do I need to? Yeah. Do I need to go on high alert? And do I need to then decide to fight, flight, run? In other words, run, freeze. And there's actually a fourth piece to that. Most people just hear fight or flight. It's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So fawn is like what?
4 F's.
Well, when a dog lays at your feet and rolls over and shows its belly.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and just shows that, exposes its weakness, its throat and stuff. That's the fawning part.
Oh, got it.
And human behaviors has different levels of it.
Right.
Okay, so we could go down the rabbit hole for an hour here. We're not going to. Not going to. Okay, so the first question.
I'm not staying here for an hour.
The first question is, like, when we see something coming towards us, or we become aware of it, movement or whatever. Can it hurt me?
Okay. So my lizard says yes or no.
You're right away. Can it hurt me? And then the next step is, like, is it possible? And we'll get to. I'll give you an example in just a second. And the next step is it showing some readiness for aggression or readiness for aggression, and they're linked. So I'm going to use an animal. Okay. So a person's walking towards you, and they've got a dog on a leash.
Okay.
Okay.
And you have to do a threat assessment quickly.
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to give you 2 different scenarios and say, you just give me your immediate impression. What, as best you can, capture what your lizard brain does. Okay.
Go for it.
You see a person walking a dog. It's a little puppy,
okay.
and it's wiggling all over, and its tail is going really fast, and it's just like
it wants to be hugged.
It wants to jump out of its skin. Exactly.
Cuddle and nuddle.
Threat assessment. Can it hurt you?
No. It'd lick me to death, but that's about it.
Is it showing an aggressive behavior?
No.
Okay. Very cool. Now, similar situation. Person walking towards you with a dog. I'm not going to pick on a breed.
Okay.
Because there are a number of well-known breeds that are big dogs. So this is a dog that's over 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a big dog. It's adult. It's an adult dog.
Okay.
And the dog is standing still. Comes to a halt, and stares at you.
So it's doing its own risk assessment.
So what is your bingo?
Yeah, he's doing his own risk assessment.
Bingo.
He's thinking in his little lizard brain. Okay.
But when you see that relative compared to the puppy, what is your level of?
Well, I'm aware, and I will tend to stop and let him do his.
So you're aware that you're doing a threat assessment.
Absolutely.
So that first question, can it hurt me? That 100-pound dog, if it wants to, can it hurt me?
Sure.
Heck yes. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, is it displaying aggressive behavior?
No.
Not yet.
Right.
Is it displaying readiness for aggression?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So these are the kind of signs that we look for, right? And yeah, because he's asking himself the same questions.
Exactly.
Can it hurt me?
Right.
Okay. So.
Or can it hurt my owner, or what it is? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Is it? Do I need to engage my own fight or flight?
Correct.
Right. Okay. So. It's so simple and clear with animals like that, right? We've all mostly got experience with that.
Sure.
And Now,
And they telegraph really well.
again, I'm going to go. I'm with people. I don't want to give scenarios because there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
But some of the considerations that we take into account in that first millisecond, right? Gender, right? Same gender, opposite gender.
True.
Right? We notice that.
True.
Because there's just differences. There's signs. There's all kinds of things. Physical size, right? If we see somebody that's in smaller stature than us versus somebody that's quite a bit larger, there's a fact of size, size that we take into account.
Right.
Okay, clothing, right? The nature of the clothing, we notice immediately if the clothing is. So, example would be someone that is in kind of dirty, tattered clothing, very obviously very old and worn clothing, versus somebody that's in a brand new business suit.
True.
Okay, you're going to have a different impression of those people.
True.
Okay. Again, from a threat assessment level,
True.
It's relative hygiene. So if a person is very well
Relative
appears
hygiene. That's an interesting
relative
term.
to the social norm,
True.
right? I mean,
Okay.
if we're in Florida, right? Everybody's wearing more casual clothes outside. They tend to be sweaty, and so if somebody's
And less clothes
in a t-shirt and sweaty in this environment, it doesn't trigger a warning,
Right.
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 But if somebody is, if the clothing is very worn, it appears to be unwashed, and so forth. Again, relative hygiene. So maybe that the person's hair is
in the social norms type of thing. Yeah.
Again, it's a relative thing. I mean, you say somebody's hair is fuzzy. Well, some people have fuzzy hair. They can't control it.
That's true.
Right? But there's a difference, and we notice it instantly, whether it's because somebody doesn't own a comb or a brush,
Right.
or hasn't used it in a week, versus somebody who's just got fuzzy hair.
True.
And again, we notice these things. It's not profiling. Again, so I'll come back to that because I know somebody's already said, yeah, this is profiling.
No, it's risk assessment.
It is because this is happening at a subconscious level in a millisecond,
Right.
or a few milliseconds. So another thing is ease of movement. So I'm going to go back to the dogs, right? The puppy is like real relaxed and it's jumping around, it's excited and there's a relaxation there, whereas the adult dog was stopped,
Right.
frozen, staring, stiff,
Got it.
poised, and we see the same thing in people. Somebody's walking towards us. If somebody's in a particular frame of mind, they tend to be tenser. Right? A person in an aggressive state of mind will have body movements that reflect
Right.
that aggressiveness. And somebody who's just chilling, they're going to move very differently. In just the gait, just their walk.
Well, we saw that in a foreign country we were in where nobody smiled.
True.
And so
That was cultural.
and it
That was the cultural norm
really
there.
hard for me to read them.
We felt very unwelcome.
Yeah, very unwelcome and very confined.
So I want to answer the profiling thing.
Okay.
In other videos, we've talked about what Daniel Kahneman developed with System 1 and System 2.
Right.
And all the stuff about how we look at somebody else and how we judge them and all these things with profiling, that's all in System 2. That's after we have time to stop and think about it. What we're talking about here with this lizard brain threat assessment happens in well less than a second, and it is hardwired into us, and it may fit the definition of profiling, but by golly, everybody does it, and you can't stop. You can't not do it. It is just hardwired into you. Now, the next part of that is, oh, well, then we should ignore that.
No.
Well, there is a very popular, a few years ago, is a book called The Gift of Fear. And it was a deep dive, backed by research, into the fact that we need to listen to our internal threat assessment and pay attention to it, because when we really need it, it works. And,
Right.
and it gives us stuff that we can talk ourselves out of, but we're harming ourselves by talking ourselves out of it.
Got it.
Okay, so if that's an area of interest, by all means dig into that. Look up the Gift of Fear, and
So, how do we make this practical?
okay, exactly, making this practical.
How do we put this in our business life?
Okay, so knowing that this is a thing, knowing that this
Right.
is real, how we approach other people, and how we show up in situations. So, like today, I purposely chose a button-down shirt, a dress. I'm not wearing a tie, but it's a
Right.
dress appearance because I wanted to be dressed up a little bit.
Right.
Because we're talking about. So when you see somebody in a t-shirt, do you think business?
No.
When you see somebody in a button-down shirt, or
Yes.
especially if they're wearing a tie, do you think business?
Yes.
So, in our business, how we show up matters. And again, it's always going to have to do with the context.
Right, because you know, if you're coming in from and you're outdoors and you're working in the yard all the time, coming in a t-shirt is
Well,
yeah.
okay. So somebody doing business of landscape care,
right?
Right. The appropriate business dress for them is going to be, you know, stuff that's casual because it's going to get really dirty. Might be coveralls, but if that same person was then going to go to a networking meeting or to a meeting with a seminar, other things, that, you know, where they were going to meet with other business owners, and they were not going to be doing their actual trade.
Okay.
Well, then that would be an inappropriate dress. So it's appropriate to time and place, but you do know we all have we have cultural norms of what is considered various levels of dress. So just be very aware of that.
Right, and the collared polo shirts, especially the ones that are engraved, they're fabulous because it's a confirmation of who you are and that you work for that business to a point. I mean, we all watch enough TV shows there, but anyway, but it's still a confirmation that you're a part of that.
Okay.
Okay, and so I think that works also.
Having the name.
Yeah.
And to a degree, name tags also do the same thing.
Exactly.
It adds there's research
level of confidence.
I can't point you to the research. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There have been studies done where someone, if they put on a white coat, like a doctor's coat, and they stand and they have a clipboard, something, there's a perception of that, right? But it gives people an authority.
Right.
And that's been done in someone in the media where somebody can just worm their way in someplace they don't belong by dressing a certain way.
Right.
So I guess it's dressing for conformity, is to blend in or stand out.
Right.
And there's times where it helps to stand out. If you want to stand out, then you might,
just don't show up naked.
But this is something we can control about how we're perceived.
Right.
Right. Another thing, smile.
Yeah.
Right. We all know how to smile, and it is one of the most disarming things you can do when you're coming.
Right.
Someone else is doing that threat assessment. You're passing somebody, or you're coming into their space, right? What do you do? Well, first of all, you can relax. You can relax your shoulders. That's another thing.
Right.
Shoulders down and back.
True.
Is not only a confident stance, but it's a relaxed stance.
True.
Shoulders tense and forward and up. It looks like you're ready to fight because it's the position you'd have if you're going to raise your fists.
True.
Right. I'm going to just drop. You can see it in the picture.
Right.
Right. So, being aware of your posture.
Right.
And having it be congruent with the rest of your demeanor. So your posture is relaxed.
Right.
You smile. You greet somebody. All of these things are things that we can control in that, and that's the part of business. It's establishing a rapport.
True.
And lowering immediately, as quickly as possible, lowering the other person's need for.
And I think, especially in other cultures, this is really important. If you're dealing, especially now we're more global here in the States than we have been before, and I think in that case, because other people are not raised like we are. So it's an awareness thing of whether or not you're communicating on their level and what is a comfort level for them. Because, we're kind of huggers and smilers and things like that. And in other cultures, that's not necessarily...
In other words, non-U.S.
Correct.
Know your customer. So
know your customer, again, right.
But in terms of the lizard brain, so we would love to hear your thoughts, your comments about your own experience with this threat assessment and what you notice, because it happens so fast. We don't. It's very easy not to notice, and it's a very.
We're already past the noticing. We're into reacting before we ever even realize what we're doing.
Yeah, by the time the first word is spoken, it's already happened.
Yeah. I'm like a puppy.
So thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and we will see you in another video.